This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, presented by the Only One Media Group. This is the people's choice for quality interviews, celebrities, and special guests. Hosted by Demetrius Dinny Reynolds. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. For the complete archive of episodes, visit onlyonemediagroup.com and be sure to like us on Facebook at Vigilantes Radio. We welcome all. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. Enjoy the show.
Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome to another incredible episode of Vigilantes Radio Live right here on iHeart Radio. And I am your host, Dini. We have a very special guest for you guys, so you definitely want to stick around for that. And as a matter of fact, text your buddies, your family members, or even share it on social media right now and let them know that we are about to dive deep into another interview. Before I bring my guest on, I do want to say, don't lose sight. This is the frequency of the fearless. You know, most organizations spend millions trying to solve problems they have misdiagnosed. They call it burnout. They call it disengagement. They call it turnover. They call it leadership failure. But what if those labels are simply symptoms? What if the real problem is this beneath behavior, beneath policy, beneath culture? What if the numbers on the spreadsheet are actually telling the story of something far more human? Tonight's guest believes we've been asking the wrong question. After nearly 2 decades working in some of society's most challenging environments, he noticed a pattern. The same breakdowns happening inside treatment centers were happening inside corporations. Different settings, of course, different people, but the same outcome. And from that observation came a framework that challenges traditional thinking about performance, leadership, and organizational health. Tonight, we are discussing why teams struggle, why leaders react, why systems fail, and whether the nervous system may be the missing variable in modern business. You're not just here for a talk show, and this isn't just radio. This is revival for your mind, body, and spirit. This is Vigilantes Radio Live. My name is Coach Dini, and change is possible. Are you ready?
You're listening to the Vigilantes podcast on iHeart Radio. I'm Mo, founder and owner of Noah Guy Heating and Air Conditioning. We're giving away 12 free HVAC systems this year, and if you or someone you know needs one, apply now at knowaguyhvac.com. To grow this mission, we're also seeking sponsors and donations. So let's change lives one system at a time. This is Vigilantes Podcast on iHeart Radio. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Well, let's go.
Let's go. What is up, guys? Again, welcome to the show. You're listening to VRL, that is Vigilantes Radio Live, right here on iHeart Radio, and I am your host, Dini. Our interviews are designed to go beyond the music, news, books, art, acting, films, technology, education, entrepreneurship, entertainment, spirituality, and sometimes even past that thing that we call the ego. Our interviews are designed to go behind the scenes and into the minds of these brilliant people, you know, the ones that were out there giving it their all for me, for you, and for the world. Well, ladies and gentlemen, returning to Vigilantes Radio Live is Matthew F. Stevens. He is a trauma-informed practitioner, systems architect, and the creator of ORS, which is Operational Regulation System. Drawn from nearly 20 years working with youth, families, treatment programs, nonprofit leadership, and corporate environments, Matthew has developed a unique framework that examines organizational performance through the lens of nervous system regulation. He is also the creator of NALS, host of the EQ Unlocked podcast, and author of the upcoming book, Everyone is a Suspect. I like that title. All right, with that, let's say welcome back, friend, to Matthew F. Stevens. Hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me back. I really appreciate it. Just really appreciate being here. And thank you.
Absolutely, man. How's it been going since we last
Hey, you know
spoke?
what? Life is life, and it presents challenges, but in every challenge is an opportunity, and that's the beautiful part about it.
Yeah, indeed. For a long time, I was asking the question at every start of the show, no matter who it was. But that question was, what's been on your heart and mind lately? And just recently, like today, I'm changing that question. So, question going forward is, what question have you been asking yourself lately that you still don't have the complete answer to?
Wow, that's a really deep question. There's so much that I don't know. That part is easy. But I think the question I have is, why do we tolerate so little, out of life? Why do we tolerate survival so often rather than actually expecting to live?
Yeah. A buddy of mine said on the live 2 days ago, you only live once, blah, blah, blah. And in the comments, I guess he didn't know I was there listening. I put, no, that's not true. You only die once, but you live every day.
That is very true. I think that a lot of times, we forget that living there's much more to it than just existing, right? I think when I think about living, it's happiness, it's joy, it's connection, it matters. It's doing the things that make your heart happy. And too often, I think we go and we do our job, we come back, pay the bills, do it all over again the next day. But I often question how often do we take time to just be present, to be attentive in conversations, to watch our kids play and laugh, to, find something to just appreciate about a moment.
Yeah. Yeah, we can, that's a deeper conversation, I think. You are a builder of systems. So I think if anybody understand what's going on in society with how could I put it? Work-life balance. There's more work than life happening.
That's a fact, sir.
Yeah. It's like one of my kids was just teasing, like, thanks for buying all this, why can't you enjoy it with me though? I said, well, I gotta work so you can have that kind of stuff. That's why I have to be missing. If I didn't work, you couldn't have that. I mean, we could easily just play with some paper and, I could make a paper checkerboard. I did that growing up. Not have it a lot. But you kids these days wouldn't know what to do. Yeah.
They really wouldn't. I know my daughter, she sometimes visits West Virginia, and she said she doesn't have a signal, in her grandparents' farm. And she said, Dad, she's 17, she says, not having the internet for a few days will really change your mind about some things. And I'm like, yeah, that it may not be a bad thing to step away from every once in a while,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had got used to not having a phone at some point in time, and people like, man, I cannot get in touch with you. I said, oh, you got my address, right? No. I said, oh, yeah. Oh, it's not the 90s anymore. My bad.
Very different time frame. Time frame.
Yeah. But welcome again, Matthew, man. We are excited to have you here with us. And what belief about I mean, I'm just going to dive right in, man. What belief about leadership, about performance, or workplace culture do you currently hold that would make any executive uncomfortable?
Well, I think that, organizations, they spend a lot of time teaching information, right? They train people to use that information. And they hope that all that training pays off. But I think what would make them uncomfortable is the fact that when, we're activated, when our nervous system is activated, when we're stressed out, when we let the stress compound, all that training goes out the window. Now, it doesn't happen immediately, but compounded over time, absolutely, that stress will go out the window. That's why you see some, you might see an employee at a store or, at a coffee shop who's just had too much, they've just had enough, and they just start spazzing out on people. It's not because they don't know how to handle themselves. It's that they, their nervous system is so activated and they never release that pressure. And the same thing happens in office buildings. The same thing happens in the financial industry or whatever industry we're talking about, because guess what? We all have nervous systems and they all react the same way. It may take longer for that pressure to build up, but the fact of the matter is that until we intentionally, regulate our nervous system, it's companies are losing a lot of money that they don't even realize is on the table.
How long did it take for you to arrive to that conclusion?
Well, a long time, a very long time. So, I don't know if we talked about this in my past or not. I experienced abuse at an early age, and actually around 2 years old is when things started. My nervous system had never had a safe baseline, so I was nearly 500 pounds at some point. I got involved in a marriage that was abusive, and so like all these life events started taking place, right? And I would go to work, and I was very good at what I did. I was very good at working with families, very good at working with kids, but there would be things that would happen in the day, and I would get activated, and I didn't realize how much this was happening until I stepped away from, helping families and children. And I just took what I call a, normal 9-to-5 job. And so I can handle sometimes a lot more pressure than others around me because, you have a kid cussing you out on a regular basis for 10, 15 years, you start to develop some thick skin. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't become as much of a stressful in the office setting. But I watched the people around me, and they were just shutting down, breaking down, time after time after time. And I'm like, what's getting them? And I started really digging into that, and I started really looking and asking questions about what was happening, and really started exploring. So my own life experiences, they taught me that something had to be done, and watching other people taught me that it wasn't just me that something had to be done for.
Yeah. Do you think we need more education on? I could imagine how many people are walking around not knowing they should relieve pressure or knowing anything about the nervous system.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, we know very little about the human brain. As for all that science knows, it knows very little about the human brain because it's so complex, right? I mean, I'm sure you've heard it. Most people have heard the brain is like a supercomputer that is untouchable. But the more we learn, the more we understand how powerful, how moldable, how it can be, our thought processes can be reshaped, and so when we talk about nervous system regulation, we're talking about day-to-day, how things impact us. We're talking about the stress that we feel, that we pretend like doesn't exist, because I don't have time for that. But the truth is that if you don't make time for it, it will in fact make you make time for it eventually.
The ORS system framework, is it solely developed, or was it solely developed for corporations?
So yes, ORS was absolutely developed for corporations. See, you spoke of NALS, which stands for Nals. And Nals is the personalized version, right? It's for individuals. ORS is for organizations. So, long story short, I needed Nals. I saw people around me need it, even though they weren't able to identify what they needed. They needed a way to change their behaviors to help them feel more calm throughout the day. So those things that really bugged them could become almost a stepping stone to become more settled, have their nervous system more settled rather than, dysregulated. And so, yes, ORS was designed specifically for organizations.
Okay. Let's say that it becomes widely accepted operating framework 20 years from now. It's implemented into the workforce. We could tell it's making a difference. What problem in this corporate world do you hope it has helped to solve?
So, as I have used, ORS, and I've given it to teammates to use, and I've given it to different people to use in the work environment, I see that it solves a lot of problems. I see that communication becomes better. I see that, responses to irritating customers, they are more well thought out. The person is no longer reactive. They're not trying to just respond to get the person off the phone, for example. They are responding to actually help that person because they're no longer activated by what that irritated customer is saying to them. So like in a call center environment, for example, it drops, average handle time. I did a little research, and, a company that has 200 agents, okay, if they can take just 10 seconds off of each call for a year, they save about $130,000 a year. I've already done that with this system, with people that I've allowed to test it. And so what would it look like? It would look like a workplace where people communicate, where people truly appreciate and are invested in the work that they're doing. And not just because of the company. And although the company culture would change, but because they value themselves and they value, putting in a good day's work, because look what this does for me, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Who benefits the most?
See, that's the tricky part, right? Because originally, when I developed ORS, I was thinking, well, maybe I'll take it to HR, because this is kind of a human resources type of thing. And then I realized that, no, this is an operational kind of thing. With ORS, we can target specific metrics and we can change certain things. So while the company certainly benefits, the employee benefits just as much, because the things that stress you out at work, granted, the things that stress you out at home are different, right? We have different stressors at work than we do at home. But how we respond to it, how our nervous system responds to those stressors, well, it may look different, but internally it's doing the same thing. And so to answer that question, that's a very hard question, because it's going to benefit both the employee and the business as a whole. And which one benefits more is frankly up in the air.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the ORS and how it came to be, how it became from an idea into the framework that it is now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spoke earlier about Nals, right? And Nals, it didn't give me new information. It really helped me to put the knowledge into action. It helped me to face hard truths, own my shortcomings without weaponizing them, and stop using other people's actions as. And so, to be very direct, the hurt and the pain that I had experienced through life, it didn't go away. The difference is that it was no longer driving my behavior. So when I went into the call center for the first time, that was the first time I had ever entered a job regulated. And I know that sounds sad, but that's the truth. And so, when I started looking around and I was looking at, the individuals around me, I developed friendships, and I developed, more than just a team. These people are my friends. And I thought to myself, how can I help them? That's where it started. And, I started looking at, trying to sell Nals to businesses to help their employees. But then I said, well, that's very one-sided. Now, how can I use this to help organizations? And so I started working on a system that would help businesses. And of course, like I said, I tested it on myself, of course, first. I wanted to see if I could improve my numbers. Well, my numbers improved quite easily. Well, then I took a new hire and I said, well, let's see, would you do this thing for me? Sure, I'll do it for me. And her numbers improved. And then I said, well, maybe a seasoned employee, maybe it wouldn't help them. So let me try with them. And it helped them. And so then I realized that, the same principles I apply in Nals could be applied to, organizations. And in organizations, that enables me to help a lot more people than trying to help one person at a time through Nals. And really, that's where it came from. It's just my desire to help people in a way that I saw that they needed help.
Absolutely. You often say that organizations don't have people problem; they have regulation problem. How much money is being lost because organizations misunderstand the difference?
Just think about this. Think about just. To look at numbers only, it was that's a pretty big feat, and we could, dig into, attrition rates and things of that nature. But if a company spends $10,000 to hire a new employee, right, with the training and things like that, just to get them started, and they're going through, let's say, 50% of their workforce in a year, that math is astronomical. And imagine if those people's jobs could be saved simply by relieving the pressure of the job, or relieving the stress that the job, and it's not relieving the stress. Let me reframe that. It's changing how they respond to that stress. And so, it helps them to get back on, to do their job with faster recovery from those stressful events. And, none of us like to go to, I shouldn't say none of us like to go to work, but a lot of people don't like to go to work. But the fact is that they feel stress there that they just don't want to feel. And then we go home with that stress, and then, I don't know about you, but sometimes after a long day's work, I need about an hour and a half to just relax for a minute. That's an hour and a half away from my family. That's an hour and a half away from, my significant others. That's an hour and a half away from my friends that I need just to calm down, just to relax. Imagine how much happier you would be if you got off work and you didn't have to take that hour and a half. Imagine how much more effective you would be if you went into work tomorrow and you're like, oh yeah, I got this. It's no problem for me. As a matter of fact, I'm going to learn something today, not because I'm going to be exposed to something new, but because I'm going to learn something about myself. Just imagine that workplace culture. That would change things astronomically.
Absolutely. Matthew, I've been a worker ant, and I've also been a leader. And one thing I've had to learn the hard way is that the BS flows downstream. One boss is giving it to the other boss. Well, I put it this way. One employee is reporting to someone over him, and someone is reporting to someone he has to answer to, and it goes up. And whoever is under pressure from results is just pushing that pressure to the next person who's responsible for the team, and it just it's a cycle that never ends. Like I said, I've been the worker ant and I've been the leader, not the top guy who's just chilling in Cancun, barking orders, but the guy several levels below him who anyhow,
I get it.
Yeah, if there is some new system or framework that can change that pressure, because some of these industries are results driven, of course, what keeps certain economies floating. But if there is some framework that is, I don't know, changing the way that the pressure is given out, hey, you gotta have this quota by such and such time, or you're not taking a lunch today, that type of pressure. Or you won't get to go home see your kids on time, you gotta work. How can we change that approach? And I really hope your framework has that solution, because I see too many companies almost slave driving their teams.
So, I think that we're at a point, right? I believe we're at a point where a lot of people understand the value of emotional intelligence. A lot of people understand that. But the challenge is that until now, from my experience, they gear mostly toward leaders, because you're right, it does slow downhill, and it is important for a leader to be emotionally intelligent. Like you, I've been the leader and I've been the worker bee. I've been both of them, and so I can honestly say that people who work for me, they experience pressure from me. I'm not proud of that. I'm not. That's not something I'm proud of, but that's something that I did because I didn't know better, right? And so, but the point I'm trying to make is that what happens if we can train the entire company to be emotionally intelligent, and not train? That's a bad word. What if we can condition the entire company to be more emotionally intelligent? What if you can look at your coworker, you can look at your employer, you can look at your subordinate and say, you know what? Wow, he's struggling today. How can I help? But do it naturally, not forced. And what I had the privilege of speaking with a VP from a global organization just less than a week ago, and he pointed out to me, he said, if people just treat their employees right, he said, if they just treat them right, they will inevitably experience the benefits of that. He said the numbers, all the expectations, those will come as long as the people feel valued and appreciated first. And I really enjoyed my conversation with him, and he really opened my eyes, to some things. And so these things could be changed. They can absolutely be changed. And the beautiful part about it is that the numbers don't have to suffer as a result. I think, a lot of people, when they hear, about ORS, they're going to say, oh, this is just another coaching program, it's another training program. You're going to come in, you're going to talk to my guy. No, it's not that. It is a conditioning system. So what that means is that literally 14 minutes a day, without interrupting your workflow, your employees are conditioned to have a regulated nervous system. And again, it benefits both the employees and the employer, so everybody wins.
In as little as 14 minutes a day?
Literally, 14 minutes a day.
Wow, that sounds magical,
as little as 14 minutes. It's again, the brain is an amazing thing. It is amazingly powerful. It is amazingly resilient. You talk about neuroplasticity and rewiring the brain, right? Just think about that. Think about the things you do, we all do, every day. If I were to ask you, what percentage of your behaviors do you think you think about before you actually do them, what would you say?
Say that one more time.
I said, what percentage of your behaviors do you think you consciously think of before you enact them?
I probably get everything right. Or just about 90%. I'd be operating 90% with not pissing people off. Or making someone sad. Yeah.
Well, most people is 5%. 95% of the behaviors we display in a day are subconscious. We're just going through the motion. That's the way the brain is designed. It's designed to be on autopilot. We do what's easiest, what's fastest. Not what makes us happiest, not what's safest, not what's healthiest, what we've, trained our brains to do. And so, with that being said, a lot of growth can happen really quickly once we start to understand these things.
Yeah. I should have reversed the number.
That's all right. Everybody knows
it. That's what I meant, yeah. Reverse that number. So ORS is built around a provocative idea, and you've been talking about this almost the entire time that we've been speaking about ORS, and that is regulate first, perform second. And you even discussed why that sequence is so important. So my question is, what happens when organizations do reverse that and it's not perform first, regulate second?
So when we're talking about, my framework, I don't know if you had the chance to visit the website, but it's regulation, awareness, choice, right? So we have to regulate, and then we become aware of the actual problem, and then we can make better choices. Because what happens if we just have awareness, okay, and we can equate that to performance, right? You just have an act. Without that regulation, it's always going to be subpar, always. It's always going to be subpar because, again, you're not all there, all right? And that's not saying that you can't put forth 100% effort, but it's just like an athlete, right? He will condition himself, and once he conditions himself, he's able to play at a completely different level than he was before he started his conditioning. Our operating system, our brains, our nervous systems are the exact same way. If they're conditioned, if we take care of them, if we take care of our needs, and we do it intentionally and purposefully, well, we perform much, much better.
Yeah. And one of the most fascinating claims behind ORS is that operational decisions create dysregulation. Like a schedule could possibly create stress. A policy could create emotional instability. And even a workflow can unknowingly manufacture burnout. Go ahead, Matthew.
No, I was just agreeing with you. I was just saying without a doubt.
Does this challenge conventional leadership thinking?
So, I don't know that it challenges it as much as it exposes that thinking to something new. Well, and it's not something new, actually. It's just something that people don't think about it from. It's from an angle that people aren't looking at it from. We all know that stress gets us, right? We all know that when we're stressed out, we don't do as well. We all know that. I mean, but until now, from what I believe, until now, we never looked at that as an operational problem. We looked at that as this is a HR concern. Let them deal with that. But the reality of it is, it's impacting your workforce every day. I look at the people, and I've asked people, how often do you take a break just to get away from your desk for a minute? Not because you actually have to do anything, not because, it's time for a break, but how, and it's something like 50% of the people that I asked, they say, oh yeah, I get up and I go take a walk because I just need a breather. That's a lot. That's a lot of lost time. And so, across different industries, I imagine people are doing the same thing. They just need to step away. And there's nothing wrong with that, except for the fact that it is costing the organization money when it doesn't have to. And that employee can be just as taken care of and be more productive, simply by implementing new systems.
So the ORS pilot program promises measurable shifts within 60 days. Matthew, what changes first?
So what changes first is people become calmer. They become able to they become aware of what's actually happening. They become aware of the tightness in their chest, the fact that they're getting irritated, and we all have those feelings when we're starting to get irritated. We know it. we may try and ignore it, push it aside, but we know it, and so they become aware of that. And through that awareness, the regulation can begin. And so it might be something as simple as, what, I'm going to take a deep breath right now. And what I've found is that the deeper the stress is, the more physical exertion, helps. So what you might have spent your break on your phone, just scrolling, now all of a sudden you're realizing, wait a minute, maybe I should get up and go outside and take a walk. And again, that awareness, that creates change in behavior, and what the conditioning does is makes you want to do what's beneficial for you. It makes it come more natural.
Yeah. What's some of the last things to change?
So, the reason it's called ORS, Operational Regulation Systems, is because it is in fact a system. It is not just, oh, well, here's the solution, and that's all there is to it. Each level builds upon the next. So that question is quite honestly endless, because the more an organization wants to help their employees perform in a better way, ORS can do that. So let's say, for example, that your main problem is that you're a call center and, people are avoiding calls. Well, let's address that. And then after we get that addressed, well, now what are we going to move on to? Now we're going to move on to maybe quality, or maybe, we're going to move on to quality. How are our customers feeling? Okay, let's address that. So again, it's a system. So it's built one phase on the next. And what I realized is that a lot of times what happens when we go in a training room, right? We go into a training room, they throw a bunch of information at us, we leave, okay, yep, we learned that. And then 45 minutes later, an hour later, 2 days later, whatever it might be, where does that information go? Couldn't tell you. I didn't retain it because I'm not using it, and even if I have the best intentions after walking into that training room, that doesn't necessarily allow me to implement it the way I'd like to. And so that's the difference between, ORS and traditional training or coaching.
Yeah, I can attest to not remembering the things of the training after the training.
Right. It's I think we all do it, and it's not because we don't care. It's not because we're not invested. It's because life can be stressful. And so, we start to get rid of the things that aren't necessary for our, what we need right now. And if you've only learned something one time over the course of, 2 hours, well, how much are you actually going to use that? It's just a reality.
So one thing I do like about ORS is that the framework uses audio conditioning rather than traditional training. What makes audio so effective?
So there is a therapeutic practice, and actually it's known as the polyvagal theory. And essentially, what he found is there's a nerve, and that nerve starts to calm us down, right? And so when that nerve is activated, it starts to calm us down. And so that nerve can be tapped into through sound. And so that's why it's an audio conditioning, right? Because we start to calm the nervous system down first, and then we can move forward as far as the rest of the conditioning. And so, you combine that with now we're implementing day-to-day actions. Well, how long does it take you to start to do something naturally if you're doing it every day for 8 hours a day? It comes pretty natural pretty quick. You know what I mean? It just does. And so that's the value in it. That's why it's so beautiful. Is because these behaviors become your natural default.
I love it. So let's imagine ORS has become the standard practice across major organizations. What changes for leaders? So much. We're talking about less burnout. We're talking about, lower turnover rates. We're talking about employees who are communicating effectively. We're talking about, those coachings that I spoke of earlier, where you go in and you train them. Now people are actively learning, and they're learning because, they feel safe. They want to be there. They're invested. And so what changes for leaders specifically is their job gets a little bit easier. Because now you're not forcing somebody to sit down for training. Now you're teaching them from a place where they already feel
regulated. And so they're more able to learn. You know, I worked with kids, like I said, for roughly about 20 years. And I worked with some of the roughest populations that I know of. And so at one point I worked at DYS. It was Department of Youth Services in the state of Ohio. And these kids are, well, they're called kids, but, you know, some of them had committed murder. Some of them have, you know, that very, 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 very challenging backgrounds, to my point. But what I learned from that, working in that facility, was that if I could help those kids feel safe, even for just a moment, you know, even if it was just for a moment, and even if they had never felt safe before that, they trusted me. And when they trusted me, they would allow me to teach them. And so as long as I stuck to my word and I followed through on everything I said I was going to do, no matter how minute it was, our relationship developed. And what happened is our relationship developed, they developed. Because they saw that there was a different possibility, a different potential. And so the same thing is true with today's workforce. You know, a lot of people don't trust their employers. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Because you're here about money, you're not here for my well-being. You know, and so when that starts to shift and people start to feel valued, and not because just start to feel valued, but they are valued. Well, imagine the type of organization you have then. You have a completely different world.
Yeah. What changes for the employees?
Well, they navigate their day with greater ease. You know, all of a sudden the things that used to stress them out yesterday, I'm not saying they don't stress them out today, but by the end of day 30, that stress looks a lot, it impacts them a lot less. They start to navigate, you know, the day-to-day pressures and release those day-to-day pressures a lot faster. And so, you know, I know that there was one young man who used ORS, and he talked about being able to communicate better. And he talked about as he started using ORS, and actually he was using Nals, so he was using an individualized version for himself, but, you know, the premise is basically the same. He said that he found himself getting off of work, and, you know, instead of doom scrolling, he would try and find something beneficial for himself. He would read books that were going to improve him as a person. You know, so imagine that, going from playing video games and doom scrolling to, you know what, I'm going to pick up some books and see what I can learn about myself. You know, not because anybody told him to read books, but because all of a sudden he started feeling better about himself. All of a sudden he started wanting more for himself, and so that showed up in every area of his life. And to me, that was one of the most beautiful things. Actually, there's an audio clip on the website from him where he talks about his experience. And so, you know, those things are immensely, they're just amazing. I mean, they're just amazing. And if we could do that for even half the workforce, which we can, imagine how much the world would change. Communities would improve, households would improve. It's just a waterfall effect.
Yeah, I love that. You mean relationships at home would change too?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't speak for anybody else, but I know that when I'm stressed out about work, if I come home and, you know, and my child needs help with their homework, I'm going to help them, but I might do it, you know, more like a disgruntled employee than a loving dad. You know, all right, come on over here. Let's get over here and get this done. What happens if I show up to my daughter because I'm not stressed out from my day? I can now handle the pressure from my day in a completely different way. Hey, kid, let me help you. And, you know, one of the most challenging systems I ever created was for my daughter. And because she told me some things she was struggling with. And I'll be very honest with you, it was very hard for me to hear. You know, she talked about, you know, her isolation, her anxiety, that she having troubles making friends at school. And so I wanted to create her a system that would help her with these. You know, she had moved out of state, she had moved to a different school, and things were just really difficult for her. And so, but I had to do it as a systems creator rather than a dad. And that was a very hard part. So, you know, that was challenging. But in a year, that same child is now in straight A student. She's in the National Honor Society. She just got a job literally today. She started a job at Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean? So, like, in a year, that progress happened. And so I just think about to myself, if everybody else had the opportunity just to have just a fourth of what she got from Nals, the world would, to me, the world would look like a very different place.
So, Matthew, where can our listeners connect with you on the internet more and learn more about the ORS system and Nals?
So my website is www.matthewf.stevens.com. And that is pretty much where I'm at. You can find my podcast there. You can find ORS. You can find Nals. You know, all the information you could ever want as far as the systems and, what I've done is right there.
And where can people check out the podcast? EQ.
So EQ Unlocked, you can find that on Apple, Spotify, you can just type it in Google, EQ Unlocked, and it would be right there.
And you are working on a book too, is that correct?
I am. So that book is called Everyone is a Suspect. And
I love that title.
Thanks. I took, basically what I did was I took my life and I really examined it from a nervous system point of view, from the ability to rewire my brain, neuroplasticity. And I looked at it and I said, wow, how much could this help everybody else? And so, I talk about my life experiences in the book and really how they should have broke by all means, but they didn't. They didn't break me at all. They actually, the toughest moments, made me resilient and helped me to become somebody that I'm proud of today.
I love that. I guess let me ask you this, Matthew, because as someone who has climbed out of the mud, made something of themselves, not everyone wake up and can view themselves from a different point of view and say, oh, that's something I need to change, or oh, this part of my story should have broken me, should have made me become this way. And I too had that moment in life, and I felt like I woke up out of a dream and that this dreamlike phase had disappeared, and I was seeing myself on how I operate as a human being to other people and could, regulate my emotions and help regulate their emotions. Not even being aware that I was doing that, but just being self-conscious that my choices shape where I'm headed in life. What was your whole process like, or what was your awakening moment like?
I'll be real transparent on this part. Long story short, I had gained custody of my daughter, and I had her for about 4 years, and unfortunately, the family courts failed. The police, they failed me and my family. I lost my business, and essentially, I lost connection with my entire family. And so I started drinking, and I drank one drink a day. It wasn't real bad, but I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing right now? You know better than this. And so I made the choice that something had to change. And so I came to Arizona. I realized that the trauma of what I had experienced so late in life, it was kicking my butt, and I had to do something about it. So I got into treatment, as far as the trauma was concerned. And what I realized is that there was a lot of stuff that was broken in me from long before this all took place. And so once I was in treatment, and once I actually looked at myself from a real point of view and said, wait a minute, I have messed up a lot. I haven't always been the person that I wanted to be. As soon as I acknowledged that I haven't always been the person I wanted to be, that opened my eyes to become the person that I wanted to be. But I had to be honest first. And unfortunately, God knows how hard-headed I am, and he had to take everything away from me, or, I had to lose everything before I could realize, wait a minute, you're not who you want to be. Go back to the drawing board. And so, again, that moment, those all the injustices, everything I perceived as wrong, it in my mind, it had to take place because I had to be broken down so that I could be built back up. And so that I could, in my mind, create something to help other people because, people deserve help. They need help. And I want to help.
I love that. All right. Listeners, just in case you need those links, I will have them in the description of this episode. And I encourage you to visit the website, his website. I will also have that in the description of this episode so that you can check it out. You can explore it and find your place there. Matthew, this is the final question. You often say people are not broken, they are dysregulated. I believe the same thing too, but I believe there are broken people out there as well. If someone right now listening feels broken or exhausted, overwhelmed, frustrated, and convinced they are failing, what is one truth you want them to remember before they go to sleep tonight?
You're worth it. You're worth the effort. You're worth the efforts. So put it in.
Absolutely. I totally agree. All right, guys. This conversation it's about systems. We know that systems operate in this world. Business, relationship, personal, you name it. Everything is a system. Even this whole creation of the world was a system in itself. And that's just the way it is. I encourage you leaders out there, you thinkers, deep thinkers, you organizers, teachers, educators, politicians, anyone who is leading a team or is a part of a team. I believe that the ORS system is something that you should take a look into. Get with Matthew. He is the expert in this area. As someone who has rebuilt his life, who has regulated his own nervous system in response to wherever it is that life throws at him. And I encourage you to take advantage of this, look into it, to implement it, study it. And it's time to do some different things in life, Nothing wrong with change. Change is just a part of life. Either you grow up or you grow down. All right, Matthew, thank you so much for being our guest tonight. It was truly an honor having you back on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it. And, take good care of yourself, my friend. And as I always say, be amazing to you.
All right, I will do. Thank you so much.
All right, take it easy.
What if the thoughts you keep to yourself are the exact things everyone else is feeling too? That's the idea behind the powerful podcast, Say It Anyway, with Corey Prophet Boyd, available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Each episode discusses real-life issues, grief, anxiety, relationships, mental health, growing up poor, finding joy, surviving the hard times, and the conversations most people are too afraid to have out loud. Hosted by nationally board-certified massage therapist and multimedia professional Corey Prophet Boyd, Say It Anyway blends humor, heartfelt storytelling, and real-world insight into conversations that remind listeners they are not alone. Say It Anyway is funny, emotional, relatable, and deeply human. Listen now on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Say It Anyway with Corey Prophet Boyd.
Email us at onlyonemediagroup.com. That's a V as in victorious. Or visit onlyonemediagroup.com. I'm counting on you. Heaven, we all are counting on you to step into your purpose and your passion. You are listening to Vigilantes Radio live on iHeartRadio, providing you with an opportunity to dive deeper.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com.